So, Five Nights at Freddy's. I'm pretty sure this game doesn't need an explanation at this point. If you've watched my channel for even a second, you know that I'm pretty into Five Nights at Freddy's. And in my opinion, Five Nights at Freddy's is legitimately a pretty good series, and with a franchise as expansive as Five Nights at Freddy's, there's going to be a lot to dig into, which should see attention to today's video. This is the Five Nights at Freddy's Iceberg. I'm sure most of you probably already know how an iceberg image works, but just in case, the higher points on the iceberg are supposed to be more well-known, common knowledge information, but the lower points on the iceberg are supposed to be more vague and creepier information around the iceberg. First off, I just wanted to credit Mish Cause here real quick, since he made the original Super Mario 64 Iceberg video, and you know, it's the father of all Iceberg videos. Secondly, I made my own Iceberg image for this video, and while I do know about the other two images that exist, this one is too short and this one has a lot of troll topics. So I made my very own image, which combines some points from both Iceberg images, as well as ones that I added in there. Anyways, let's just get started. 1987 in FNAF 1 Custom Night. This is one of the most commonly known secrets in the entire franchise. So in some of the Five Nights at Freddy's games, after beating the 6th night, you will unlock an additional 7th night, nicknamed Custom Night, in which you can adjust the animatronics AI however you please. Well, if you list the animatronics AI in the order 1987, which is a reference to an event that phone guy tells you in the Night 1 phone call,
but then there was the bite of 87.
Then instead of being taken to the night transition screen as usual, you'll instead be taken to Golden Freddy's jump scare. This Easter egg wasn't in earlier versions of the game originally, and the reason it was added was because Scott Cawthon, the creator of the game, wanted to halt rumors made by a lot of people that you would supposedly unlock an alternate ending for the game if you played the custom night mode with the animatronics AI set to 1987. And in case you need proof that it didn't exist in earlier versions, I had the MFA file to version 1.1 of Five Nights at Freddy's, the absolute earliest version of the game, and there was no alternate ending frame that could be found. The only endings in the file were the original 3 that you would run across when beating Nights 5, 6, and 7. RWQFSFASXC. This is the name of a secret animatronic that could be found in FNAF 2, alternatively named Shadow Bonnie. His role in FNAF 2 is to crash your game when he spawns in the office. This is extremely rare, however, and most players don't usually come across him. Shadow Bonnie eventually does return in FNAF 3, playing a bigger part in said game, mainly as a means of achieving the game's alternative ending, nicknamed the Good Ending. He also returns in FNAF World as a playable character alongside Shadow Freddy. Lastly, he appears in both Ultimate Custom Night and FNAF AR. JJ. JJ is a secret character that can appear at random in FNAF 2. Unlike Shadow Bonnie, however, she doesn't affect gameplay in any way. She has a similar appearance to Balloon Boy, with her major visual difference being her color palette. She does eventually return in both FNAF World and Ultimate Custom Night, with her role in FNAF World as being a playable character and her role in Ultimate Custom Night being to act as a secondary Balloon Boy. Purple Guy is William Afton. This is the killer in the Five Nights at Freddy's series, the one responsible for the missing children's incident indicated in the first game. At first, he was simply referred to as just Purple Guy due to his color palette containing mostly purple. However, in the first FNAF novel, The Silver Eyes, we learned that the identity of Purple Guy is actually William Afton. Furthermore, one of the teasers for Sister Location holds the phrase Afton Robotics within its source code. Eventually though, William Afton's name is just flat out mentioned in the opening of Sister Location by the narrator. Scott is a Christian. Despite making a game series about murderous animatronics shoving security guards into lethal suits, the game's creator, Scott Cawthon, is actually a Christian. Before FNAF, he's been known for making a series of other games, as well as a series of animated shorts called The Pilgrim's Progress, and additionally making games revolving around the series. Some of his other work also involves games such as The Desolate Hope, There Is No Pause Button, and perhaps most famously, Chipper and Sons Lumber Co. Scott's work before FNAF is actually incredibly massive, and it's definitely worth checking out. I'll be showing a list of all the games he's made on screen here, but I'd recommend pausing the video to look at it all because it's genuinely a lot. ScottGames.com. This is pretty bare to bones information, but Scott Cawthon has a website called ScottGames.com. Before, the site was used to promote his games and promote other events that Scott was attending, especially charity events. However, nowadays Scott mainly uses the website for all the teasers that he makes for Five Nights at Freddy's, Oh, right, I suppose I should go over what the teasers are for people who don't know. Scott uses teaser images in a different light. Many of the teaser images Scott makes includes hidden messages or images. These can include brightening up said images or looking at the source code of said teasers, as was earlier implied. Essentially, his site is used for a lot of lore purposes, but don't expect me to dive into that rabbit hole. I got out of it a long time ago and I'm not diving back into it. Freddy in Space Final Boss. FNAF World had a major update in 2016, a few months after its initial release, nicknamed Update 2. This included new characters, a new map, and new content. Anyways, Freddy in Space is one of the mini-games that is accessible from FNAF World Update 2. At the end of the mini-game, you're faced with the final boss. The final boss in question is literally just Scott Cawthon's head in a bottle. I'm not making that up. Right you're seeing right there is an image of Scott's head inside of a tube with metallic claws coming out. Yeah, needless to say, FNAF World didn't really take itself too seriously, and yet people still think it's canon in some way. Again, not diving back into the rabbit hole of FNAF's lore. Toxic meter. This was an unused asset that can be found in FNAF 2's game files. The meter was meant to rise longer the player wore the mask, with the full meter potentially causing the player to force the mask off. This was removed due to there already being enough counters to camp in the mask, i.e. with their Foxy and the puppet. So, simply put, it was removed due to it being kinda pointless. There's a video on YouTube which showcases what the toximeter would have been like if it was in the final release of the game. Considering that there is still some code in the game for it, just no way of activating it, rather than adding some simple code. Hanging Mangle. Shortly after FNAF World's release, a teaser arose on scottgames.com, which at first showed a black screen. However, people indicated that brightening up the image would show something different. Upon doing so, however, you're met with a pretty heartbreaking image. What's shown on the brightened version of the teaser is Adventure Mangle being hanged, and the words, "See what you've all done," below it. It's really saddening, and even more so when you learn that Scott actually started developing suicidal thoughts after the backlash he received after releasing FNAF World. Except that there's more to this teaser. Yep, so turning up the saturation will reveal that Adventure Mangle isn't actually hanging itself, but it's just instead just hanging onto a paddle ball using its mouth, which is the same one that Adventure Mangle is seen with in the trailer for FNAF World. So yeah, the image wasn't actually revealed to be Adventure Mangle hanging itself, but it's still important to note the context of this teaser being made. Thankfully, Scott seems to be doing a lot better now, but it's still sad to think someone like Scott actually started developing suicidal thoughts, and it would have been tragic if something were to happen to him. Anyways, I better not dwell onto this for too long, so let's just move on. FNAF 3 Fun Facts. Many people are aware of the newspaper that you achieve in the third Five Nights at Freddy's game after completing Nightmare Mode. However, the text that borders the It Burns title along with its description actually has readable text with it. Using some simple editing on the image, you can better make out what the sections say. They refer to fun facts that were made during the production of the first 3 FNAF games, including how Freddy, Bonnie, and Chica were originally just nicknames for the titular characters, but ended up becoming the official names when the game finished. How Scott had nightmares about Bonnie in real life due to him thinking he was the scariest animatronic he had made, and how he had modeled Foxy during a 24-hour road trip, and that could explain why Foxy looked so torn up. Poor Foxy. Nose honk. This is just a funny little gag you can do in every FNAF game. It just revolves on making this sound play. In the first game, clicking on Freddy's nose on the Celebrate poster will trigger the sound. The same can be done on Toy Freddy's nose on the poster to the left in FNAF 2. In FNAF 3, the Freddy drawing will play the sound if its nose is pressed on. In FNAF 4, the Freddy plush on the player's bed will produce the sound if its nose is clicked on. In Sister Location, the Fredbear plush will play the sound if you press its nose in the private room. In Pizzeria Simulator, Helpy's nose can also be honked while playing the survival section of the game. The Freddy plush on the player's desk can have its nose honked again in UCN. Freddy's nose can be honked in the menu for FNAF VR, albeit very hard to do, as well as in Freddy's Parts and Service level, and finally, Freddy's nose can be honked in the star menu for FNAF AR. Pre-patch 1020 mode in FNAF SL. Five Nights at Freddy's Sister Location received a DLC update at around December of 2016, nicknamed Sister Location Custom Night, and of course there was a challenge that many people wanted to beat, where all the animatronics were set at max AI, called 1020 mode. Originally there was less power available and people attempted to take on this mode, but eventually a patch was released for the game that gave the player more power when playing the mode. Only a couple of people have actually been able to complete the challenge before the patch, including Splidiff, Zombie Gabrielle, and oh hey, Mechabyte. FNAFworld.com. As mentioned before, Scott posts teasers on his main website, scottgames.com. However, did you know that he actually has a second website called fnafworld.com? Sometimes specific teasers and secrets appear on that website, including some source code relating to an incident occurring to Ennard at the end of Sister Location, in which Baby is kicked out of the group. It's not used that often, but still something that many FNAF fans pay attention to. Sparky the Dog. Sparky is one of, if not the very first hoax that Five Nights at Freddy's has ever had. The anomaly around Sparky the Dog is that he would sometimes appear in the backstage of the first game, and at the time it was deviously convincing. It would be believable that you would miss him during normal gameplay. However, it has been confirmed by Scott himself that Sparky is indeed a hoax, and is not in the game. Even more so, if you look into the game's files, there is not a single trace of Sparky to be found in the game at all. But this is still a classic, and is the hoax that most people say is the most convincing. CD+. CD+ refers to a shortcut that can be used in both the first and second games. To use the shortcut, the player must first be transported into the office. Then the player must hold down both the C and D keys. While holding down both keys, the player must press the plus key at the same time. If done successfully, the player will be instantly taken to the 6 AM screen. This was used as a developer's shortcut for when Scott was making the game, but was left in after the game was released. This same shortcut can be used in the second game as well. However, it is also required that the player hold their mouse over Toy Freddy's nose hitbox, the same one that makes the honk sound effect. The shortcut was finally removed upon the release of FNAF 3, but the legacy of CD Plus still remains prevalent today, and you can still do the CD Plus tricks in both FNAF 1 and FNAF 2 today. Big Bug. Big Bug is the name of a YouTuber who played both the first and second FNAF games. He's on this list because he was the very first person to complete the infamous 2020-2020 mode in the first game. The video showcased here shows the strategy used for this attempt that Big Bug won on the mode on. This strategy is often referred to as the Big Bug strat. Nowadays, however, many people don't like to use the Big Bug strat and instead prefer to rely on the more reliant Fraser strat. So what exactly made Big Bug strategy inferior? Well, simply put, it was a lot more luck-based than other strats that came around once new tricks involving the game were discovered. And however, he is technically important to FNAF's history, as he did show that 420 mode was possible, something that many people were skeptical of at the time. Lives in FNAF 1-3. Lives were an unused mechanic in the first 3 FNAF games, originally debuting in FNAF 1. In the official gameplay video on Scott's YouTube channel, a live symbol can be seen when taken to the night transition screen, before being removed as an unused mechanic. However, what's even stranger is that the lives can be found in both the FNAF 2 and FNAF 3 MFAs, even though they never appear in those games. What I think happened is that Scott simply copied the MFA files for FNAF 1 and simply made both FNAF 2 and FNAF 3 from the copies of said MFA and didn't bother to remove them, which honestly wouldn't be too out of the question. 395248. The numbers 395248 are used as one of the steps to achieve an ending in FNAF 3, nicknamed the Good Ending. This involves using a series of hidden buttons and codes throughout the game to play through secret mini-games and complete the steps in achieving the ending. The numbers 395248 are used in this series of tiles seen in the office. The tiles act as a number dial, and inputting the values correctly will send the player to another mini-game, crucial to unlocking the ending. The numbers can be seen again as one of the steps in unlocking the clock ending in FNAF World. Blip 3. Blip 3 is the name of a sound used in the first Five Nights at Freddy's game. The sound in question plays when you're switching in between camera rooms. I'll play the sound in question for you now. While it's not exactly unknown, it's less well known than some of the other names for sounds in the game, like X-Scream. Draw Kill animatronics. The Draw Kill animatronics made their way into the FNAF community following the release of FNAF 3. A trailer featuring the characters was made upon their initial arrival, and while a trailer was never meant to fool people into thinking it entitled the third game, some gullible people believed it, and the Draw Kill animatronics became a staple to many FNAF kids' hearts, myself included. Eventually, sometime in FNAF 3's lifetime, they eventually died off. However, they're still a small piece of FNAF history, and they personally hold a special nostalgic place in my heart, and thus a rightful way to conclude this layer of the iceberg. Cam stalling. Cam stalling is a technique that's first introduced in FNAF 1. The technique involves stopping a character from moving by looking at a camera they're on. This technique can be done with Freddy in FNAF 1, and the technique was brought back again in Ultimate Custom Night. The technique in Ultimate Custom Night is absolutely crucial in beating the infamous 50-20 mode. Music Man uses FNAF 1 Scream. An odd detail that some people have pointed out about Ultimate Custom Night is Music Man's jump scare. All the animatronics jump scare sounds line up with their respective games that animatronics and jump scare sounds came from. Well, Music Man's jump scare uses the FNAF 1 Scream sound effect, and what's weird is that Music Man is a character from Pizzeria Simulator. This has been a mystery for a while, and many people are still wondering if it ties into anything. It could mean something, but at the same time, it could mean absolutely nothing. Sugar. The character Sugar was a supposed animatronic that would appear in FNAF 2 in the prize corner. Many people thought that this silhouette in the prize corner camera was of a character that somebody named Emil Mako created, named Candy, and obviously Emil Mako went on to create the Five Nights at Candy's game. However, the reason he actually did end up making that game was because many people kept asking him if the character he made prior to FNAF's creation was in the game, and in response, he made a game to pretty much say, hey, my character is not in this game, stop bugging me about it. And then it got popular. Additionally though, if you look at the assets for the prize corner in FNAF 2, you would have noticed that the room that you always see has that silhouette all the time. It just looks a bit odd to people, I guess. Open FNAF 4 box in FNAF World. There's an unused asset in the files for FNAF World which shows the box from FNAF 4 opened. For those who aren't aware of what the box is, in FNAF 4 after beating Night 7 you'll be taken to this scene of a box. There's text alongside the scene which says some things are best left forgotten for now, and we never really get an explanation as to what's in the box. However, this unused texture reveals that Scott originally intended to reveal what was in the box, but decided against it before the game was released. There's also a really interesting post which reveals that not only is this in the game, but it has some code, and some very specific code too. I'll read the post to you all. Everyone knows about this unused box texture in FNAF World, but there's something neat in the source code that I don't think has been brought up before. Let's open the MFA and see what's in there. First, the texture is found in the Underground 1 frame, but look what the object is called. Intrigued? There's more to it because Scott assigned some code to it. To explain, random is an alterable RNG that differs in number count. For example, I can assign it to this, random 6 plus 20, so it'll choose a random number around or between 6 or 20. By the way, this is actually incorrect. As somebody who uses ClickTeam, it doesn't choose between 6 and 20, it chooses between 20 and 26. Just thought I put that correction in there. As you can see, Scott misused the action for the object since it's calling a random out of a random. As a result, this does absolutely nothing and doesn't affect the game. This is incorrect as well. It does pick values, but no additional coding is used for events to occur from it, so nothing in the game happens as a result. Though, here's what's interesting. How many random actions are added here? 7. Given that the box was lifted straight from 4, interesting that it was the only model that was recycled from the FNAF games, aside from an edited Nightmare BB model, it reminds me a lot of the Bite of 87, the supposed event that happened in the game. Though I can't use this as proof that 4 took place in 1987, I'm grasping straws here. Either way, I just want to show you more source code secrets. Feel free to post it on TCRF and the FNAF World Wiki if you want, though really, what's with the name anyway? So yeah, obviously the guy doesn't understand fully how ClickTeam works, but still thought this would be a nice little addition to the Iceberg, considering there is coding linked to the unused object. Sister Location Trailer 2. In the description of the SL trailer on Scott's channel, it's mentioned that this is the first trailer for the game. However, the second Sister Location trailer was never released on his YouTube channel or anywhere else for that matter. So where's the second trailer? Well, it was never made. Before Sister Location's release, Scott made a post explaining what had happened to the second trailer, explaining that he simply thought that one trailer was enough, and as a result, it was never made. I've heard some people say that the opening for Sister Location is the second trailer, but I never really understood that. Toxic Song. While we're on the topic of FNAF World, there's an unused attack in the game called Toxic Song. This attack probably would have poisoned enemies judging by the name, although it isn't definitive who would have inhabited the attack. Some people say that it would have gone to Springtrap and Phantom Mangle, since their counterparts Funtime Foxy and Spring Bonnie both have Cosmic Song and are the only ones to have those attacks in the game. Still, it's another topic in the pile of unused features in FNAF World. Bonnie running in FNAF 1 trailer. A shot from the first Five Nights at Freddy's Freddy's trailer features Bonnie running across the West Hall, as opposed to Foxy doing it. It's still debatable whether this is originally going to be in the game and that it was simply replaced by Foxy before the game released, or this animation was made specifically for the trailer. Still, though, it's really interesting to see. Elevator Biddy Bab. Sometimes after entering the elevator in Sister location, a Biddy Bab will appear on the left side of the elevator watching you. It's just there for atmosphere, but still pretty rare to come across from what I've seen. Phantom Bonnie. Just like with Sugar and Sparky, this was another hoax animatronic that would supposedly appear in FNAF 3. Since there isn't a phantom version of Bonnie in the game, with a representative of Bonnie coming in the form of Springtrap, some people tried to make other people believe that Phantom Bonnie was in the game. Thankfully, though, not many people seem to believe in this, and it's just another part of the hoax list on this iceberg. Night 5 phone call reverse. The Night 5 phone call in FNAF 1 is arguably one of the creepiest things in the game. The audio plays as follows. However, what's interesting is that this audio is not only reversible, but distinctable as well once reversible. The audio comes from a phrase of a book with the name The Autobiography of a Yogi, and the phrase talks about how metal can have a life force, which sounds similar to how the animatronics have life inside of them. FNAF 1 really had the most atmosphere in it, didn't it? Chica's Party World. There's an odd detail that some people have discovered within the teasers for FNAF's sister location. Looking through the source code of the game, the phrase Chica's Party World could be found. This has led to a lot of speculation as to what this phrase means, specifically if this was a location and when in the timeline the location would be in. While we still don't know an answer, it's still an interesting topic in the FNAF community. The Desolate Room. The Desolate Room was another game that was made by Scott Cawthon before Five Nights at Freddy's. The game featured the character Coffee and would later get a sequel in 2012 named The Desolate Hope. The titular character Coffee would later appear as a playable character in FNAF World Update 2, along with Mr. Chipper. While we're on the topic of the Desolate Room, there's a point on one of the previous icebergs that mentions that assets from Sister location were taken from that game. Sure, it's possible, but I wouldn't say it's likely. Unused poison effects in FNAF World. In the files for FNAF World, there is an unused poison animation that would have been applied to the enemies. It's likely this was removed due to there being a poison effect applied to the enemies already, so the poison animation wouldn't have much of a use and was scrapped during development. Beta Endo. A beta version of the endoskeleton can be seen in the initial green light for Five Nights at Freddy's, containing red eyes and sharp teeth. This will come back later, but just know that this version of the endoskeleton went unused, simply because it seemed a little too try-hard, and thus the final endos were conceived and went with the game's release. FNAF 1 Scream Origins. The origin for the Scream sound effect used in FNAF 1 comes from the science fiction film Inseminoid. I'll play the footage of the Scream in the movie, and then I'll play the Scream used in-game. I have heard that the Scream used in Inseminoid is just a stock Scream in itself, but I have found no tangible proof of this. Minorina in the Circus Control Room. Rarely upon entering the Circus Control Room in Sister location, a Minorina will appear inside the room and twirl. This doesn't do anything, it's just a neat little Easter egg, so yeah, twirl. Unused Balloon Boy jump scare. In the files for FNAF VR Curse of Dreadbear, there is an unused Balloon Boy jump scare animation that you cannot see. This jump scare would have played in the Trick or Treat minigame and went unused because, I mean, look at Balloon Boy, how do you get scared of that? So Balloon Boy's jump scare was replaced by Nightmare Balloon Boy for the Trick or Treat minigame, but the unused animation can still be found in the files. Lost Trailer. I actually made a video about this topic a few months back, so watch that if you want more specific details as to what I'm about to talk about here. But one of the first comments on the FNAF 1 trailer mentioned that there was a lost FNAF 1 trailer featuring scarier versions of the endoskeletons with red eyes and sharp teeth. Sound familiar? Well, it's because we actually have an image of something like this. This image was released on Steam while FNAF was still going over its green light, but this has led to people trying to search for this supposed lost trailer. The commenter has eventually come out saying that he simply mistook what he saw in the trailer, and that the quote-unquote lost trailer was almost identical to the trailer we have now, except for the ending shot. So while people are still trying to look for this trail has started to become a little cold, and it's becoming less likely that it'll ever be found. Early Brow Boy design. An unused enemy in FNAF World indicates an early design for Brow Boy, a boss that appears in the Pinwheel Circus area in the game. From this, we can discern that the Brown Boy would have originally appeared as a regular enemy like the Ball Boy in game, but Scott eventually decided to turn the Brow Boy into a boss instead of a regular enemy. Still, the animation can be found in the files for the game. Sanshi. Sanshi is a toy company who is known for making plushies for specific franchises including FNAF. Like Funko, Five Nights at Freddy's is what they're most known for. Unlike Funko, however, their merch is much more high quality than Funko's, at least in my opinion. Still, you can look at their selection of plushies on their website. Blacklight animatronics in FNAF VR. A series of blacklight animatronics can be found in the game files for FNAF VR. These animatronics consist of blacklight animatronics for the core 4 animatronics. Where they would have appeared isn't entirely clear, but they would have most likely appeared in the FNAF 1 section of the game when playing the mode in blacklight mode. The blacklight animatronics themselves appeared originally as merch from Funko, by the way, but then they were originally implemented into the game, were scrapped, and are now left in the files as unused content. Blacklight mode in Curse of Dreadbear. For the unaware, Curse of Dreadbear is the DLC for FNAF VR Help Wanted, released closing in on Halloween in 2019. As mentioned before, FNAF VR has a blacklight mode, which differs from the normal versions of the levels that you play in the game. Well, there was originally going to be a blacklight mode for Curse of Dreadbear, and there are many unused assets in the Curse of Dreadbear DLC of the game that indicated that this would have been the case. Rare Freddy Frostbear plushies. There's this really funny thing I found online where Freddy Frostbear plushies happen to be pretty rare, and as a result, they happen to be way more expensive than typical plushies. Like, some plushies cost $60 just for one, as far as I'm aware. But what's even funnier is that there's a Freddy Frostbear figurine that is being sold online, and you want to know how much it is? It costs $5,000. I'm not making this up. There's a screenshot to show you all that. I'm not going insane. Still, though, it's pretty hilarious that this whole thing is even happening to begin with, but hey, that'd be pretty fun to go along with on the Iceberg. Diagonal walking in FNAF World. In the trailer for FNAF World, a shot shows an animation of Overworld Freddy walking diagonally. Many people thought this was an idea originally going to be in the game, but that it was simply removed like all other unused content in the game, but no files can be found of this. Additionally, notice how vastly different the background appears than how it does in the final game. The trees blend into the background, and it appears as if the perspective of the background is completely different also. I personally believe this shot was made solely for the trailer, but hey, I could be wrong. Eighth Night. An odd glitch that can occur in the first Five Nights at Freddy's game is you can make the counter for the night act weird. If you mess around with the menu enough, then you can make the night counter say night 8 once you transport in the office. This video from Dinky Dana showcases the actual 8th night in action. DJ Sturf also made a video about this 8th night in the original FNAF 1 as well. Freddy Bear. Freddy Bear was the name that Freddy originally had before it was changed to just Freddy Fazbear upon the first game's release. This name can be seen in the now debunked Kickstarter for the first game, whereas the description for the game mentions Freddy's nickname at the time, Freddy Bear. Group Hug and Thank You teaser source code. In the Thank You teaser that was released after FNAF 4's release, some people soon discovered that when digging into the source code for said teaser, the phrase group hug could be found. This arguably led people to start digging into the source code for all the rest of the teasers and future ones that would release, in the possibility that certain messages or terms might be found in those ones as well. Unused Toy Chica sprite. In the files for FNAF 2, there's a sprite of Toy Chica that doesn't appear in the game at all. This asset would have been used like how Toy Bonnie's sprite in The Office was used, where the sprite scrolls across the office when the animatronic is in the vent. So this meant that Toy Chica was originally meant to act almost identical to Toy Bonnie. However, it was most likely removed due to coding complications and the sprite was left in the game's files. However, I was able to get the sprites to work with each other, and I've been using ClickTeam for way less than Scott has, so he has no excuse. Unused cupcake animation in FNAF World. Going back into the dog pile that is unused content in FNAF World, there exists an alternate animation for the cupcake that plays upon using the cupcake attack. This animation was seemingly meant to play after the cupcake stopped falling down, and once played, was only meant to play once before switching to the neutral animation that is seen in game. Notice, however, that the cupcake animations have different sizes and lighting, so that this difference in the animations was the most likely reason why the bobbing animation went unused, considering the repeating animation fits the lighting and size to the cupcake when it's falling. Why Afton's head is so big. A Reddit post was made which explains why Afton's head is much bigger than the rest of the animatronics in the series. It's because the head was made under the context that a human head would actually fit inside. If you need an example, taking a model of a human head and placing it inside of Springtrap's head would lead you to find out that Springtrap's head is actually way too small for a regular human head to fit inside. Yet if you take the head and place it inside of Afton's, it fits perfectly. So yep, Scott actually decided to care about anatomy in Pizzeria Simulator. Foxy was supposed to be a beaver. In the Scott Cawthon interview that Daco made, Scott mentioned how Foxy was originally supposed to be a beaver in the game, but was removed due to him not wanting the game Chipper and Sons to spark any similarity to FNAF. A wolf animatronic was also conceived for Foxy after the beaver idea flopped, but Scott eventually settled with making Foxy the way he is today. Eventually, though, both the beaver and wolf animatronic ideas would come back in the forms of both Twisted Wolf and L-Chip. Burnt Freddles. A series of charred-looking Freddles can be found within the files for FNAF VR, specifically within Curse of Dreadbear's files. These Freddles were meant to appear in the Build a Mangle minigame, which further supports the idea that Curse of Dreadbear was meant to have a blacklight mode. Considering the regular Freddles already appear in the Build a Mangle minigame, and these supposed alternate versions go unused in the game, it's practical proof that the blacklight mode was originally planned, but never came to fruition. Unused puppet renders. A series of puppet renders can be found within the files of FNAF 3, but all of these renders are not seen in game at all. What is interesting, however, is that these renders can all be seen in FNAF 2. Specifically, these renders may sometimes appear after the puppet escapes the music box, and can only appear when you flash the main hallway camera in said game. As you can see, rapid hallucinations of the puppet can be seen here, but as said before, they strangely appear in FNAF 3 with absolutely no purpose. I believe this was because, as hinted before, Scott copied the MFAs from the other games of Five Nights at Freddy's. It copied them over when making the next games. Hence, Scott most likely copied the MFA file for FNAF 2 and made FNAF 3 from said copy. It would explain why the puppet renders appear in the game and are left unused. Salvage. When the trailer for FNAF 3 came out, many people were excited over the new Golden Bonnie animatronic that would appear in the game. While many people had different names for this animatronic, the most popular fan name was arguably the name Salvage, and he was referred to as such until Scott made a Steam post revealing the animatronic's canon name, which was, of course, Springtrap. Some people, myself included, probably would have preferred the name Salvage over Springtrap, but hey, the name Springtrap is still pretty cool. Theme park. As FNAF 3 was gaining a lot of traction, there was a fairly popular image that supposedly showed what the third game would entail. This image features a theme park looking environment with the title Freddy Land along with it. While this image was interesting, it was obviously proven to be fake when the trailer for FNAF 3 released on Scott Cawthon's channel, revealing the game wouldn't take place at a theme park attraction. Unused text in FNAF World. Okay, I swear to all of you, this is the last time I'm going to be talking about unused FNAF World content. So, within the game's files, there are two strings of text that cannot be seen in-game. The first comes from one of 8-bit Fredbear's dialogue, and it goes like this: if you keep following him, you will only finish his story. There is something more important for you to do. The second string can be found within the different endings of the game, and goes as follows: well, congratulations, you beat a fictional monster from a fictional game. Bravo, big deal. There's no way to trigger any of these strings, except perhaps manipulating the code of the game within the game's MFA file to force them to appear. Amalgamation animatronic. An idea that many people had during the production of FNAF 3 was the box containing all the toys in this teaser for the game would have a purpose. That purpose was that Springtrap would construct an amalgamation animatronic out of the parts inside. Unfortunately, when the game did come out, there was no amalgamation animatronic to be seen, but it's still a cool idea that many people had and would have been neat to see in the game. Mediocre melodies in FNAF 3. In the Happiest Day minigame in FNAF 3, there are a series of 5 children sitting at these tables that originally weren't thought much of, just decoration. However, upon the release of Pizzeria Simulator, many have caught the similarity of the color palette of these children to the mediocre melodies in FNAF 3. The only character's color palette who doesn't match is Nedbear's, but it's still hard to unsee once you do see it. So either Scott simply took the color palettes of these kids and applied it to the mediocre melodies without any thought of its importance, or the matching color palette isn't just a coincidence. Dirt Pile and Midnight Motorist. Midnight Motorist is one of the mini-games that can be played in Pizzeria Simulator. Within the minigame, the player can access a hidden exit in the 4th lap of the race. If they successfully do so, they will be led to a separate path down from the normal track. However, if the player exits the car and goes left toward this area, they will access another area of the map, and in the distance, a dirt pile will be viewable. This dirt pile would make no sense unless you read the Twisted Ones novel, the second book in the FNAF series. In the book, the quote-unquote twisted animatronics would dig themselves up during the day and then dig themselves out once the night struck in order to go out on murderous rampages. This little detail originally suggested that the books and games existed in the same universe, but nowadays we know that's not the case. It still would have been a pretty cool concept in my opinion though. Rise of the Freddy. The Curse of Dreadbear DLC for FNAF VR originally had a different name before its release. This screenshot shows a promo for the Halloween DLC Curse of Dreadbear, or as it was referred to at the time, Rise of the Freddy. The Rise of the Freddy name was eventually removed before release, and now the Halloween DLC is referred to as Curse of Dreadbear. Shadow Man in the Hallway. There's an extremely old photo that came up here and there on the release of FNAF 2, where supposedly a silhouette of a man could be seen in the main hallway camera. While this was certainly possible, it was debunked rather quickly when people looked at the game files for FNAF 2 and found no asset of the Shadow Man appearing in the main hallway anywhere in the game. Still, though, if it were real, it would raise a lot of eyebrows as to what it could be, and I personally believe that this would have been William Afton if this hoax turned out to be true. Apocalypse animatronics. This refers to an April Fool's joke Scott made in the form of a Steam post, where he said the movie is about apocalyptic animatronics and humanity getting into a war. There's a lot of other stuff regarding time travel and how Freddy can shapeshift and stuff. It's pretty great. I'll show you the plot for it on screen, so pause the video if you want to take a look at it. And thus a perfect way to conclude this layer of the iceberg. Min arenas are in Fun with Plus Trap. In FNAF VR, the min arenas can appear in both the Fun with Plus Trap and Fun with Nightmare BB minigame. However, the only video I found of this event actually occurring is from a Twitch streamer who caught the min arena Easter egg while playing Fun with Nightmare BB.
Hello? Oh, you're a lot bigger than I remember. Ooh, what the fuck?
Considering this was the only footage I was able to find of this event happening, I believe it's safe to say that it's incredibly rare to get this Easter egg in particular. Bonnie and Chica jump scare glitch. There's a really old video up on YouTube which shows off a glitch in the first Five Nights at Freddy's game, which would only occur in earlier versions of the game. This glitch would involve having Bonnie or Chica arrive in your office, and as soon as their jump scare would start playing, to rapidly open and close your camera. This would set their jump scare into a loop and would prevent the player from dying until they stopped flipping the camera up and down. This glitch was eventually patched in a later version of the game and can no longer be done. Mike and FNAF 2 game files. In the game files for FNAF 2, a strange sprite can be found outside of the office frame for the game. The sprite itself is an edited picture of a Frogget from Undertale and includes the name of Mike. It includes no coding and has absolutely no purpose in the game itself. This has led me to believe that Scott intentionally left this here for people to find, seeing as people managed to find the game files for FNAF 1. Other than that, there's no real purpose that this holds, at least of yet. There is a Reddit post that makes a finished version of this sprite, included with bunny ears and everything. The FNAF 3 map is Anim Dude. If you rotate the map for FNAF 3 180 degrees, then the contents of the map match exactly that of Anim Dude, with the running and everything. I haven't seen anyone else bring this up online, so discovering this for the first time was really shocking for me. CD Plus on Phantom Balloon Boy. After brightening up this image of Phantom Balloon Boy, some people claim to see CD Plus encrypted on his hat. Once it's pointed out to you, it's pretty hard to miss. However, I don't think this was something Scott intentionally left in. Like, yeah, if you look at it a certain way, it can say CD Plus, but I personally don't believe it means anything. Golden Freddy after game over screen. In FNAF 1, after getting transported to the game over screen, there is a 1 in 10,000 chance that instead of going back to the main menu, you will instead be transported to Golden Freddy's jump scare. Considering the chances of this event actually occurring, it's understandable how it'd be incredibly difficult to come across the jump scare this way. However, there is a video by Eerie Echo which shows them getting jump scared by Golden Freddy through the game over screen. Version 1.0 is lost. Version 1.0 of the first Five Nights at Freddy's is considered to be another piece of FNAF lost media since it was never actually released. As stated before, the earliest version of FNAF 1 that was released publicly was version 1.1. It's speculated that version 1.0 contained a lot of beta content, including the beta camera map and the lives count, which were both scrapped before the game's initial release. Furthermore, many people believe that the video on Scott's channel named Five Nights at Freddy's Gameplay is version 1.0, considering it includes the lives count, which people believed was in version 1.0. However, it's highly unlikely that people will ever be able to experience version 1.0 of the first Five Nights at Freddy's, seeing as the game has maintained many updates that would have likely caused version 1.0 of the game to be scrubbed from the face of the internet. Boney. So this is just a funny little typo I discovered while scavenging through FNAF 1's game files. So the AI counter that Bonnie uses during the office segment of the game is hilariously named Boney. What's even funnier is that this same typo stuck through FNAF 2 and 3, meaning Scott had no intentions to even fix the typo, which I find pretty hilarious. Just figured this would be a funny little topic to go over as we dive deeper down the iceberg. Devil Freddy. Devil Freddy was yet another hoax animatronic, said to appear in Ultimate Custom Night. The whole premise behind Devil Freddy's existence is very bizarre. Anyways, there's a whole video basically explaining how to quote-unquote unlock Devil Freddy, and the person has made other such amazing content, such as unlocking Demon Springtrap in Secret Granny Mode, unlocking Granny event. The person who made these is named Kamina Gaming, and it's pretty obvious he's just doing this for the views. Still, it's really dumb how this even happened, so let's just move on. Beating the third level in Fruity Maze. So, Fruity Maze is a minigame that you can play in Pizzeria Simulator, and the minigame has 3 levels. It's a Pac-Man styled minigame, where you have to collect all the fruits within an amount of time. However, the third level is often seen as impossible, considering that there's no real feasible way to actually get all the fruit before the time runs out. However, DJ Sturf made a video showing that it actually is possible to beat the third level of Fruity Maze, so that's just kinda it. Night 999999999. Like the Night 8 glitch in FNAF 1, you can make the night counter in the game act weird, and basically, if you do a bunch of insane stuff, you can make the night counter in the office say Night 999999999. DJ Sturf also made a video showcasing this off pretty well, so go check him out if you haven't already, he's a great guy. The newspaper change. In one of the more recent patches for FNAF 1, the newspaper that you see when you start a new game actually has a small change in it, but it's so subtle that unless it's been pointed out to you, you probably wouldn't have even noticed it. In earlier versions of the game, the phone number provided in the newspaper used to say 1888-FAZBEAR, but after the specific patch was applied, the phone number now reads 1555-FAZBEAR. It's unknown as to why this number was changed. Perhaps there's some story I'm not aware of. I'm just grasping straws here. Maybe there was a phone number somebody made that was actually 1888-FAZBEAR, and that's why Scott changed it. Again, I don't know, but it's still an interesting change and a very subtle one at that. FNAF 1, Foxy, and FNAF 2. So in the FNAF franchise, there are 2 events in which the Foxy model from FNAF 1 actually appears in the second FNAF game. The first of which is this teaser, which shows FNAF 1 Foxy alongside Mangle, who appears in FNAF 2. Keep in mind, this teaser was made specifically for the second game, so FNAF 1 Foxy appearing here doesn't make a lot of sense. And secondly, in the FNAF 2 section in FNAF VR Help Wanted, there are some instances where FNAF 1 Foxy appears in the hallway, acting similarly to how Withered Foxy did in FNAF 2. I believe this was changed when the Withered update came, which added all the Withered animatronics to the game, including Withered Foxy. Still, though I could be wrong, I definitely do remember seeing FNAF 1 Foxy in FNAF VR though. For Afton children, there was an early sister location idea that there were 4 children in the Afton family: Michael Afton, Elizabeth Afton, and the Crying Child. So what about the 4th child? Well, from what I could gather online, the rumor says that this kid who is seen in one of the FNAF 4 minigames is actually this kid who is seen wearing the Freddy mask in the Night 5 minigame, and that he is actually an Afton child. It's really far-fetched if you ask me, but hey, there are some crackhead theories out there. Might as well crack them even more. Withered Bonnie's bow tie clips. I understand that this is somewhat common knowledge, but in Withered Bonnie's custom night mugshot in FNAF 2, there's a red object that could be seen on the far right side of Withered Bonnie's jaw. Some people were wondering what this could be. Some people had theories more crazy than others, but at the end of the day, this just turned out to be Withered Bonnie's bow tie clipping through Withered Bonnie's jaw. It's simple erroring done by Scott and nothing else. Distorted plushies. In the game files for FNAF VR, there is a series of weird looking plushies that don't appear in the game. These plushies are distorted versions of Freddy, Funtime Foxy, and Foxy. There isn't anything known as to what these plushies were used for, if they were even used at all. Supposedly, they appeared in the blacklight levels in the vent repair minigames. Other than that, they're basically just an elaborate piece of FNAF VR. Lost demo wallpapers. The Kickstarter for the first Five Nights at Freddy's game would have rewarded people with supposed wallpapers of the game if they had donated enough money to the project. However, since nobody donated any money for the project, none of the rewards were given to people, including the wallpapers. It's unknown as to what these wallpapers would have looked like, and it's unlikely that Scott still has them in his possession, meaning that they are all now officially lost. Beacon Bonnie. Beacon Bonnie is a really rare animatronic that can appear in Funtime Foxy's Night Terrors minigame, specifically the blacklight version. Summoning Beacon Bonnie is really bizarre, and it's insane how people were even able to discover him in the first place. Sometimes when playing the mode, an endoskeleton will appear on the map, and when you get really close to him, you'll receive a jump scare from Beacon Bonnie. Concerning how supposedly rare Beacon Bonnie is, many people were skeptical of his existence. That is, until people discovered Beacon Bonnie himself in the game files. Needless to say, Beacon Bonnie remains one of the most elusive parts of FNAF Help Wanted. Night. This refers to a glitch that could occur in FNAF 1, where the night number wouldn't show up and would just say night. I'm not sure as to the validity of this, but it does make sense in a technical state. However, I couldn't find any evidence of this glitch actually occurring, and I couldn't find anything in the MFA for FNAF 1 that could cause this glitch to happen. Sock Puppet. In the game files for FNAF 2, the puppet is referred to as Sock Puppet, judging by the name that a representative of the puppet animatronic has within the game's files. This nickname was most likely nothing more than just a name referred to by Scott, and is something I haven't seen anyone bring up yet. Nightmare Balloon Boy was in FNAF 4 before the Halloween update. An image dump of the original FNAF 4 reveals that there are a lot of images of Nightmare Balloon Boy in the Fun with Plush Trap minigame, meaning that all of these assets of Nightmare Balloon Boy were made before the Halloween update was even made. It's incredibly bizarre, as seeing Nightmare Balloon Boy here being completely unused and simply within the game before the Halloween update is something that doesn't occur often in these games. Freddy Fazbear's Pizza is real. Amidst the release of Five Nights at Freddy's, a certain image circulated the internet by storm. This image depicts that Freddy Fazbear's Pizza is indeed a real location and that the games took off from this location. Obviously it's fake. but it still remains as one of the most nostalgic parts about the series, even if we all look back at it now and laugh at it. Lamar Afton. Lamar Afton was a theory made by a YouTuber named Blackfoot Ferret, and the theory revolved around how there was an Afton child named Lamar Afton. I haven't watched the video itself, but from what people have told me, it's another one of those crackhead theories, so I'm just going to take their word on it. FNAF went based off of Aurora Chuck E. Cheese shooting. The 1993 Aurora, Colorado shooting took place on December 14th, 1993, when 4 employees were shot and killed, and the 5th employee was seriously injured at a Chuck E. Cheese's restaurant in Aurora, Colorado, United States. The perpetrator, 19-year-old Nathan Dunlap, a former employee of the restaurant, was frustrated about being fired 5 months prior to the shooting and sought revenge by committing the attack. The incident has since gone down as being one of Colorado's most tragic events, and Nathan Dunlap currently sits in jail for life. Now, what does this have to do with Five Nights at Freddy's? Well, Game Theory made a theory stating that the incident was what the story of Five Nights at Freddy's was taking off of. There was quite a bit of evidence to support this theory, but Scott later came out and deconfirmed the theory, and I'm honestly kind of glad that the story of the game didn't turn out to be inspired off the event, as it would have come off as disrespectful to the families of the victims who were shot and injured. Still, it's a tragic event and one we shouldn't take lightly. 1987 in FNAF 2. So this is really interesting because not only was it interesting to learn, but I haven't seen anyone bring it up online. So I was scavenging the MFA for FNAF 2, right? And I was looking at the frame for the custom night, but I found something. I found a counter called 1987, which I'm hoping that rings some bells to some of you by now. And surely enough, there's code in the custom night frame which checks for if Freddy, Bonnie, Chica, and Foxy had their AI set in the order of 1987. Unfortunately though, after that it doesn't do anything else, but still it's really fascinating that nobody has talked about this yet. And as for why it's still here, I think the reason why this went unused was because this was made before Golden Freddy got turned into a base character into the second game. So obviously, after Golden Freddy was added onto the base game for FNAF 2, Scott didn't feel like the 1987 Easter egg would be elusive anymore, and so it went unused. Unused section in Happiest Day minigame. While I was scavenging through the game files for FNAF 3, I found something really interesting in the Happiest Day minigame frame. As you can see, there is an entire section below the actual minigame that is never seen. If this layout looks familiar to you, it's because this layout was taken from the BB's Air Adventure minigame, which would make sense considering how Scott has a habit of reusing things for his games. What's interesting, however, is this section. In BB's Air Adventure, these platforms would simply appear as regular platforms, but here they appear as tables. This has a really simple explanation, and it's just that Scott replaced the platforms used in the BB's Air Adventure minigame with the tables, and they replaced the textures in this section down here as well. I just find it weird how Scott never bothered to remove all of this, as it probably would have saved a lot of space on the game. Not like FNAF 3 isn't already small enough as it is, I'm just saying. Still, I just wanted to show you guys more cool stuff, because I haven't heard anyone talk about this at all. Five Nights at Freddy's will never end. Really think about this one for a second. If you recall the story of Ultimate Custom Night, then you may remember that the story is pretty much how William Afton is stuck in purgatory in the hands of Cassidy, who is revealed to be the spirit who possesses Golden Freddy, and the game is pretty much William Afton being stuck playing endlessly against the animatronics for eternity. So, with that in mind, really think about this for a second. What if what we're being told here is true? Then William Afton will be stuck in purgatory forever, no matter how long it lasts. The story of Five Nights at Freddy's will continue as Golden Freddy keeps torturing William Afton for eternity. No matter how much time passes or how long we wait, this is how the fate of William Afton is decided. And it's from this that we truly discover that Five Nights at Freddy's will truly never end. And there you go. That was the Five Nights at Freddy's Iceberg. Sorry this took so long. This project was on hold for a while, and I've also just had a bunch of other stuff to do. Anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed this one, unlike my previous FNAF Iceberg video. which I may or may not end up re-uploading at some point. I don't know, I just don't feel like I'm decisive on what I want to do with it yet. Anyways, if you enjoyed this video, make sure to subscribe, like the video, all that jazz, and I will see you all in the next video. Bye bye.